The cruelest thing ever done to him was not by his enemies, but by those he helped the most. Arthur felt this truth settle deep in his bones, a chill that had nothing to do with the autumn wind rattling the loose timbers of his small home. For a week, the rain had been a relentless drum, and the dark, spreading stain on his ceiling was a map of his own neglect. He had the wood, the skill, and he had planned to fix the roof. But then Mrs. Gable's fence had collapsed, young Thomas needed his cartwheel mended, and the village elder, Maeve, had insisted the community hall's porch was a danger to the children. His own home was always the last on the list. Now, the wind whistled through the gaps in his walls, and the steady drip, 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 into a bucket was the mocking rhythm of his own generosity. The antagonist was not a single person, it was the village's bottomless, smiling need, and it wore the faces of his friends. Today, he decided, pulling on his worn coat, would be different. Today, he would be selfish. As he stepped outside, tools in hand, Maeve was already there, her face a mask of practiced concern. "Arthur," she said, her voice smooth as a river stone. "A disaster. The Great Hall. The foundation stone has a crack. A terrible, deep crack." Arthur looked past her at the bruised, heavy clouds. A real storm was coming. "Maeve, my roof, your roof can wait," she cut in, her tone sharpening just enough to sting. "This is the heart of our village. It holds our winter stores. If it falls..." She left the threat hanging in the air. The choice was laid before him, as clear and as cold as a headsman's axe, his small, private shelter, or the survival of the collective. He tried to bargain. "Let me secure my own roof first. An hour, 2 at most. Then I will see to the hall." Maeve's smile was a sliver of ice. "Of course, Arthur. We all understand that your own needs must come first." Her words, spoken just loud enough for 2 nearby farmers to hear, were a public shaming. The heat of it burned in his gut. "Fine. The hall first." As he turned to follow her, she placed a hand on his arm, her grip surprisingly strong. "One more thing," she said, her voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. "The crack is right beneath the main support beam. If that storm hits before you redone, the whole structure could fail. The fate of our village is in your hands, Arthur." He worked in a desperate fury, the choice no longer feeling like a choice at all. The wind tore at him, driving icy rain into his face, but he ignored the screaming protest of his old bones. The so-called crack was a hairline fracture, something he could have sealed in an hour. But Maeve, watching from the doorway, insisted on a full reinforcement, new mortar, support braces, even a drainage trench. It was a week's work, not a day's. He toiled, his mind a numb buzz of hammers and chisels, each gust of wind a reminder of his own exposed home. Villagers would stop by, not to help, but to watch. "You a saint, Arthur." They'd call out before hurrying back to their own warm, dry houses. The hypocrisy was a bitter taste in his mouth, but he swallowed it down and kept working. On the 3rd day, the storm broke in its full, biblical fury. He hammered the final brace into place just as the sky turned black, the great hall now more secure than it had ever been. Soaked to the bone and shivering uncontrollably, he stumbled back to his cottage. The sight that met him broke something deep inside. His ceiling had given way. A cascade of sodden thatch and splintered wood lay across his bed. Rain poured through a gaping hole in the roof, soaking everything he owned. His precious tools, his life's work, were already beginning to rust in pools of muddy water. His winter food stores were a spoiled, watery mess. He had saved them, and in doing so, he had damned himself. That night, a fever took hold. He lay on the damp floor, wrapped in a single wet blanket, his body shaking with a violent, racking cough. By morning, burning with fever but driven by desperation, he went for help. He knocked on the gable's door. "My roof," he rasped. "Mr. Gable looked uncomfortable. "A terrible shame, Arthur. But with this storm, we must look after our own." The door closed. He tried Thomas, whose card he had fixed for free. The young man would not even meet his eye. "I have my own family to think of," he mumbled, shutting the door in his face. Finally, trembling and on the verge of collapse, he made his way to Maeve. He found her directing two men as they carried sacks of flour, her private stores, into the newly reinforced section of the great hall. She saw him and her face softened into a performance of pity. "Arthur. You poor man. Come inside, out of this dreadful rain." She led him into the hall, the very place he had saved, and sat him by a small, cold hearth. "We are all so grateful for your sacrifice," she said, patting his hand. For a moment, a flicker of hope ignited within him. Perhaps he had been wrong. Perhaps they did care. He opened his mouth to ask for help, for a place to stay, for some food, but she spoke first. "The entire village is talking," she went on, her voice filled with a terrible, sweet sympathy. "About how you put the community before yourself. A true hero." She leaned closer. "But a hero who is now homeless and ill. It is a tragedy." This was it, he thought. She was going to offer him aid. But then came the twist of the knife. "Do not you worry," she said, her eyes gleaming. "The village will take care of its hero. We have agreed. You can have a cot here, in the corner of the hall. And in return for our charity, you can of course handle the small repairs that are always needed. It is the least you can do to repay the kindness we are showing you." The words hit him like a physical blow. It was not an offer of help. It was a prison sentence. He had not just lost his home, he had become the village's indentured servant, his heroism a chain they would use to bind him forever. He was a tool to be kept in a box until needed, his worth defined only by his utility to them. He was in the lowest, darkest place of his life, a savior they had crowned with thorns and then condemned to a life of grateful servitude. That night, lying on a thin, lumpy cot in the cold, cavernous hall, the fever raging, Arthur looked at his hands. They were gnarled, scarred, and blistered, but they were strong. They were the hands that had built and mended this entire village. They had fixed the Gables fence, Thomas's cart, and Maeve's hall. And what had it earned him? Pity and a prison cot. A chilling clarity cut through the fever's haze. Kindness given to a thief is not a virtue, it is a tool for your own destruction. The choice in front of him had never been about his roof versus their hall. It had been about his self-respect versus their exploitation. And he had chosen wrong. But it was not too late to choose again. He rose, his body aching but his mind sharp as a new blade. He did not go to confront Maeve. He did not plead with the villagers. Words were their weapon, and he would not fight on their terms. He went to his ruined cottage and retrieved one thing, his heavy wood axe. He returned to the silent great hall. He walked to the foundation stone he had repaired. And he looked up at the massive new support beam he had installed under Maeve's urgent command, the very beam she had lied about. Methodically, with the quiet precision of a master craftsman, he began to dismantle it. He did not smash it. He unfastened the braces. He removed the pegs. He took back what was his. An hour later, the great wooden beam lay on the floor. The hairline crack in the foundation was now under the full, unsupported weight of the roof and the coming winter snows. Maeve's lie had been made real. He took nothing else. He left the beam lying there, a monument to his final act of service, and walked out of the hall. As the first light of dawn broke, Arthur walked out of the village without looking back. He left behind a community that would soon discover its heart was not just cracked, but truly and irrevocably broken. They had not destroyed him. They had simply shown him, finally, the price of his own kindness.